So each of them has to put their name in.
Normally I just put everybody.
Yeah, you call risk working.
What's going on?
So
I just got here, so fill me in.
No problem. Like, he and I were putting a puzzle together. We've been doing some artwork together.
You are putting a puzzle together?
Yes, we have a puzzle that we started in there.
Okay.
We've been doing art, trying to take the stuff off the wall to make new art put up there, like having a good time with one another. But we're drinking. We had a bottle of wine last night.
Okay. Fine.
So then it's like, we decided to play hide and seek, right?
Okay.
So he gets in the suitcase, okay?
Who is this guy?
That's my ex-husband, my former husband.
How did he lives here with you guys?
No, I called him over here.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
So then he came over here.
Here, let's talk in private, okay?
I called you guys. I tried giving him CPR. The problem is I fell asleep.
When did you do CPR?
This morning, when I found him.
Before you called?
Yes!
It's 1 o'clock right now.
I tried. I was awake, but I actually got out of the bed at like 12:30ish, whatever. So I came downstairs, and I was like, oh, he's in the suitcase still. And that's when I found him, and I took him out, and I tried doing CPR, and then I called him, and then I called you guys.
Did he get here before the fire department got here?
Who?
Your husband? Or
Yes.
your ex-husband?
Yes.
Okay. Where does he live at?
Right down the street.
Okay. So you were playing, and who zipped him up?
I did, but then I fell asleep.
Okay. You're okay. I wasn't here. I'm just trying to figure out what happened.
I fell asleep, so I don't know if he suffocated or like had an aneurysm or a heart attack or what.
What kind of medical conditions does he have?
None that I know of.
Nothing that you know of.
None
You
that
didn't
I
take
know
any
of.
medicine last night?
No.
No medicine.
All we had was a bottle of wine. Literally, just a bottle of wine.
Okay.
Doing puzzle artwork. Then we decided to play hide and seek. That's all that happened.
Okay.
So I don't know if he had a heart attack or what in there. Like, I don't know what happened.
So how long were you doing CPR on him prior to you calling 911? You tried that all morning?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I called him while I was
What
doing
time
CPR.
did you start? Probably in your ballpark. Here, let me fill this deputy in, okay?
Please, may I have my Dr. Pepper? I am
Hold on,
so
one
caught
second,
mouth
one
right
second.
now.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, so in the time that we are looking at, this is her first contact with the police. Now, one of the things that you always know is that people are not accustomed to dealing with police officers because they don't know the difference between a patrolman and a detective, and they start feeding information. The reason I have this True Crime Workshop thing up is that's exactly the whole approach in True Crime Workshop. We talk about that very difficult time for people to know the difference. So when the first cop shows up, she starts feeding information to that cop like that's the investigator. When in fact, most of the time that cop's going to try to pick up a few details and secure the area and wait for the officer in charge of the detective to come in and start asking the right questions. Immediately she starts, it sounds like a bad 911 call. She starts clearing instead of, we talk about steering versus clearing. Steering you to the solution means that I want this solved. Clearing means, hey, I didn't do anything wrong. Now, does that mean that a person's guilty? Well, clearly we know she was involved with this, so she's going to try to get out of it as much as she can. When she's talking about what they were doing, there's a lot of illustrators. If I were the cop, I would say, hold on a minute. How'd somebody get in a suitcase would be my first question. But that's not what she asked. She does a great job of continuing to ask, even though it looks like something that is hard, that's almost impossible to believe that a person is in a suitcase. So when she starts to talk, then she rattles along. It was art, and it was this, non-pertinent information, things that have nothing to do with a guy dying. But when she gets to the crux of the matter about getting in the suitcase, she eye blocks. And so then and she does a qualifier. She says, we decided to play hide and seek. I don't know how getting in a suitcase is hide and seek. You know where somebody's at for sure. I don't know what you'd call that. I think there's a whole lot of questions I'd want to ask if I were sitting here. You see that burp? That could be gastric distress from the stress, but it's highly likely that it's a hangover because she says, I'm cotton mouth. She talks all through this thing about how she's feeling. The crux of her story, though, is where she gets really animated. When she says, I fell asleep, and she's really animated, that's what she's trying to do, is to get that message across more than any other part of this, more than any other part. And you can see that desperation in her face and in her voice because the story isn't working like she wanted it to. The woman's asking her questions that she was not wanting to get out. She gets emphatic. And then she does this thing where she starts to draw her hands in. Her hands start to draw up. And that's useless. When I look at somebody whose hands are doing that, I've seen it a few times in my life, in real life, and under high duress, people's hands will ball up and they'll curl up in the floor. But your hands are becoming useless to you when you are curling your fingers together. And the only way I can equate that is I don't have the tools to do this. I think I've heard Lena Sisko call it the claw of something, claw of deception or something like that. That's her words for it. So seeing a person's hands do this is an interesting one. Then she introduces this vanishing perpetrator chase. There's no vanishing perpetrator here. I think she's bringing the perpetrator to the dance early when she says, we drank a bottle of wine and that was all. She's got some residual emotion that looks good when she shows shock and fear and all that stuff. We always say truthful people show when something has happened. And I'm not going to take the rest of this. There's a whole lot of stuff in here. She tries to edit as she's speaking. She throws out those words, just individual words like puzzles, artwork. Something's going on. And then when the woman validates her story and said, you did CPR all morning? Yes. She jumps on to validate it. Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree with you on all those points. The one thing that really stood out to me in this clip here is that the story is completely chronological. And this is a huge red flag, but there's an exception to this. If you say, walk me through everything that happened, and you tell them to be chronological, you can't call that a red flag. She was not suggested to do this. So that would be a pretty big red flag. Most stories for investigators, most stories after any huge incident will start with the incident, or that will have the center stage, not the entire lead up in the story. So the emotional spikes are usually at the beginning. And then she starts offering possible medical conditions, possible causes of death, injecting more ambiguity into the situation. And I think the story is prearranged and rehearsed, and every detail is added in there. She gets offended when she's asked when she started doing CPR. And this video clip alone would have me believing that there was deception and that I am probably talking to the suspect. If I was that officer taking those notes, I would think, just because of this one clip, I am talking to my prime suspect right here, just based on those couple of things. Scott, what do you got?
All right, this is the classic first encounter with a suspect, or the suspect with the police. The officer goes over the discovery of the body and all the information she can gather at that point, all the things that Greg talked about. Everything in here is so classic. Everybody's going to cover these. So, Mark, I won't take the rest of them that everybody else has. And I'll briefly go over some of the other things. Like Greg was saying, she covers things that have nothing to do with what happened. When you get there, this is basically the 911 call, sort of, or her version of it, or another version of it. And going back to the burp where Greg talked about where she burps, we've seen that before on the guy from the Jinx. What was that guy's name?
Durst.
Oh yeah, Durst. Yeah. So I think I think you're right, Greg. It could be from a hangover. It could be from one bottle of wine. I wonder how that would happen.
Okay.
So so I think that they could probably be that, or as she's lying, it's starting to dawn on her how much trouble she's going to be in. So her stomach may be getting upset a little bit and may start churning a little bit on her. Let's talk about blink rate just a little bit. Her blink rate, it slows down, it speeds up, it slows down, it speeds up. And there are several theories about why our blink rate speeds up. And one of the ones that I always lean toward is the Joe Navarro theory, where he talks about how it goes back to how we were animals on the Serengeti, back a long time ago. And when our limbic system pops off because something's chasing us or getting ready to chase us, we see a tiger or some animal's getting ready to get us, our heart rate jumps up, our breathing rate goes up, and we start to make sure our eyes are clean because they start getting dry, because everything starts drying up as your heart beats faster, preparing all your muscles to start running. And I think and I agree with Joe when he says he thinks that's more of like a window cleaning situation, like a windshield wiper, to make sure your eyes are clean and clear, so you'll see what all's going on around you when you start running. You'll have a better chance of getting away. Then she explains. She goes from we were playing hide and go seek to the problem of what happened is that she fell asleep. And I'm with Greg. I don't know what kind of game you're playing where you're going to talk somebody into getting into a suitcase and then letting them zip it up. That's crazy talk. And how's that hide and seek where you know where they're hiding? There's no hiding there, and there's no seeking there, except him, I guess, seeking a way out. It's corny, but there's a lot more in there, but I'll leave some for you, Mark.
Yeah. Look, so I would say pretty immediately, this is the person, this is the perpetrator. Just like you say, Chase, it's immediately apparent. However, I'm not there. What does the person who's there think? Well, I think she thinks this is the perpetrator as well, because you'll see a little moment where the interviewer pulls her hair back. There's no reason for her to pull her hair back. Her hair isn't in her eye. And she does that after the Penelope pit stop, like, yes, which is like the Penelope pit stops. Hey, help, just for the fans out there of Penelope pit stop. There's that extreme look. It's not that you're a liar if you talk like that. It's just, it's so out of baseline for her that even the interviewer reacts and pulls back, imagines pulling back her hair. She knows that this is the culprit, I think. When did you first do CPR? There's a head tilt from her on there. So I think she's judging the threat in front of her. By the way, earlier on as well, lots of indirect gestures as well. Look, it's an important thing. Somebody's died. You'd expect if you're being interviewed that you want to give really direct information rather than kind of fluffy and airy and watery information. But she's all, flowery and watery and airy over here, not direct. Then we get it's 1 o'clock right now. So there's an idea that there's no logic to this. When did you first do CPR? This morning, the head tilts. Then it's 1 o'clock right now. She says, I tried in a heightened tension. Then she composes herself as she thinks to herself, okay, I've got to get this story right now. She says, I was awake, and then there's lots of fillers, but actually ish, whatever, like. So it really goes badly for her from moment one. I think the officer attending here knows this is most likely the person involved. Oh, and then she goes for the Dr. Pepper at the end. Again, notice the way she asks for the Dr. Pepper without any of the emotion that she was trying to put forward around the issue, the death that's gone on. Very strange, very odd. We've got a live one here.
Each of them has to, because this might be a real scene. So each of them has to put their name in.
Normally I just put everybody.
Yeah, you call it's working.
What's going on? I just got here, so fill me in.
No problem. Like,
Yeah,
he and I were putting a puzzle together. We've been doing some artwork together.
You are putting a puzzle together?
Yes, we have a puzzle that we started in there.
Okay.
We've been doing art, trying to take the stuff off the wall to make new art put up there, like having a good time with one another. But we're drinking. We had a bottle of wine last night.
Okay.
So then it's like, we decided to play hide and seek, right?
Okay.
So he gets in the suitcase, okay?
Who is this guy?
That's my ex-husband, my former husband.
How did he live here with you guys?
No, I called him over here.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
So then he came over here.
Here, let's talk in private, okay?
I called you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I tried giving him CPR. The problem is I fell asleep.
When did you do CPR?
This morning, when I found him.
Before you called?
Yes!
It's 1 o'clock right now.
I tried. I was awake, but I actually got out of the bed at like 12:30ish, whatever. So I came downstairs, and I was like, oh, he's in the suitcase still. And that's when I found him, and I took him out, and I tried doing CPR, and then I called him, and then I called you guys.
Did he get here before the fire department got here?
Who?
Your husband? Or
Yes.
your ex-husband?
Yes.
Okay. Where does he live at?
Right down the street.
Okay. So you were playing and who zipped him up in?
I did, but then I fell asleep.
Okay. You're okay. I wasn't here. I'm just trying to figure out what
I
happened.
fell asleep, so I don't know if he suffocated or like had an aneurysm or a heart attack or
What
what.
kind of medical conditions does he have?
None that I know of.
Nothing that you know of.
None
You
that
didn't
I
take
know
any
of.
medicine
No,
last night?
no.
No medicine.
All we had was a bottle of wine. Literally, just a bottle of wine.
Okay.
Doing puzzle artwork. Then we decided to play hide and seek. That's all that happened.
Okay.
So I don't know if he had a heart attack or what in there. Like, I don't know what happened.
So how long were you doing CPR on him prior to you calling 911? You tried that all morning?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I called him while I was
What
doing
time
CPR.
did you start? Probably, give me a rough ballpark. Here, let me fill this deputy in, okay?
Please, may I have my Dr. Pepper? I am
Hold on,
so
one
cotton
second,
mouth
one
right
second.
now.
If you like this video, get the full body language breakdown and analysis on our main channel by clicking this video right here.
Get away.